And welcome to Retirement UTV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors, as well as Neil Major, senior investment advisor. Brian, how are you?
Good to see you, Cynthia. Doing great.
It's good to see you. I'm doing great as well. How are you, Neil?
I'm doing great, Cynthia. Thanks for asking. How are you?
You're welcome. I'm doing great as well, and
Good.
always so excited for our shows because obviously from one week to the next we've been gaining more viewer questions and more interest, and I know that you've been booking a lot of consultations. Brian, what are people asking you right now?
Well, we hear it all. I mean, but the biggest things I see all the time is, and what people will ask is they'll say, look, I'm at a point in my life where I want to retire. I'm not sure when to start collecting my Social Security. I don't have a pension. I have a 401k plan. You know, that's one challenge everybody's dealing with.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
if you look at retirement yesterday versus today, most people 30, 40 years ago retired with a pension.
Yeah.
Today, you got 85, 90% of the people not retiring with pensions. So, you know, they're challenged because, you know, when you look at their income going into retirement, if they're a married couple, I mean, if you're single, the situation is completely different. But if you're a married couple, the only guaranteed sources a married couple is going to have is Social Security. So for most people, Social Security was only designed to replace about 40% of the salary. So where are they going to get the extra money from? They're going to have to withdraw it from their 401k. And a lot of people just don't know how to do that, and they want to know how to do that.
Sure.
Of course, without running out of money is the big thing.
That makes sense
Yeah.
because so many people in the viewing audience, they're wondering today if they can retire. We've talked about this in the past, Neil, that people will go to the mailbox, they pull out their statements, and they think that's a plan. But that's totally different than having a well-designed plan, looking at statements. Let's explain the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you can't just go, when you're talking about investment planning, you're just basically going from point A to point B. And you don't really know exactly what that means unless you go up, you're pretty happy. If you go down, you're not so happy when you're at the mailbox. But really, I mean, Secure Money Advisors, we've developed a 5 key area retirement plan. And that focuses on income planning, number one, because if you're going to retire, you really have to have that mapped out income. To Brian's point, we're seeing people that don't have pensions nowadays. So the problem and the challenge is without these pensions, we have to develop the cash flow. It was a heck of a lot easier when you retired, knew your company was going to pay you X amount of dollars each and every month guaranteed.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't have that now. So income planning is number one. Then is the investment planning. How do we go about you know, figuring out where your money should be allocated at this point in time?
Okay.
2's tax planning, or 3's tax planning. You know, a lot of expectations, our tax rates are going to increase, and what can we do now to deal with the known rate? So that's a big interest area for people coming in. Healthcare planning, and then legacy planning. So there's 5 key areas, and if you're lacking in 1, 2, 3 of those, you're not going to have a successful plan.
Sure.
And just to add to that, I mean, I think a lot of people have investments thinking that it's a retirement strategy, as you kind of said. And what we have to understand is there's 2 phases to retirement. There's an accumulation phase and a distribution phase, and we talk about it all the time on this show. We talk about it on the radio show. We talk about it at our educational events, which, by the way, folks, if you have questions, and we're going to go over some questions here in a little bit with Cynthia, but if you do have questions and concerns about your situation, go to www.securemoneyadvisors.com, go to our events tab and find out where our next event's going to be. We try to do about 4 or 5 of them a month. And so get out and come see us, and we dive into a lot of these topics as deep as we can during these educational events. So, you know, I think people are just, they're really at a point to where they need good guidance, and that starts with understanding distribution. Most people understand accumulation, right? You put as much money away as you can, you try to get the best rate of return. It's not rocket science when somebody builds you a portfolio for accumulation. But I think they say, you know, most people don't die on the way up to Everest, they die on the way down.
That's true.
And you need a guide on the way down, and that's what Secure Money Advisors here. We're here to be a guide to get you through that distribution phase, which again, the strategies and techniques you use during the accumulation phase are not the same strategies and techniques that you're going to use during the distribution phase. And if you don't understand that, there can be a lot of potholes in the road along the way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Brian, you alluded to the fact that we had some viewer questions to go through, and I would love to spend some time going through those. What do you think? Neil, I'm going to bring the first one to you. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, Neil, this is a caller from Pittsburgh, and he would like to know, I have an employer-sponsored 401k and a rollover IRA. I have transferred much of the 401k balance to the IRA. I'm approaching age 72. Under the 401k, I can defer the RMDs so long as I continue to work and maintain ownership interest in the business of less than 5%. May I also defer RMDs from the IRA?
Great question, and you want to make sure you get that RMD done correctly because there's a massive penalty if you don't. 50% penalty if you don't take the correct RMD. So to answer your question, yes, you can defer the 401k RMD, but the IRA you cannot. So you do have to, even though you're working, still contributing, you still have to take your RMD out of your IRA. And like I said, make sure you get that done correctly, because if you're supposed to take out $20,000 and you don't, you're going to be looking at a $10,000 penalty.
Wow.
Yeah, and RMDs become a big issue in retirement.
It really
I mean,
has.
most people, you go back to before we had these big tax changes, right? And the standard deduction, I think, for a married couple went to about $26,000. But prior to that, people would get a nice deduction for giving to charity. A lot of people like to give to their churches,
Sure.
organizations.
Sure.
And what people don't realize is that we have something called qualified charitable distributions, which the IRS allows us to take the RMD from our retirement plan and actually give it to a charity and not pay taxes.
Wow.
So people are still giving the charity in their later years, and they're actually doing it the wrong way today because they're taking money out of their IRA accounts, paying taxes on it, and then giving it to charity, when in fact they could just say, you know what, I'm going to give my RMD or some of my RMD, you don't need to give the whole thing, some of the RMD directly to charity, and they don't have to pay taxes on that RMD.
That's fantastic.
Or some of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So RMDs are a big challenge in retirement, and there's really great strategies on ways to maximize and utilize your RMDs to benefit your situation as the best we can.
Brian, what happens if someone forgets to take their RMD?
Yeah, well, that's to Neil's point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally forgets
50%
about it.
penalty.
Yeah, big mistake,
Big,
right?
big
Yeah.
mistake, and the IRS is not too forgiving on it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
if you forget, like Neil said, I mean, if you're required to take out 20,000
Yeah.
and you miss that, that's a $10,000 penalty.
And oftentimes what we see is people have different IRAs throughout, different companies, they have different 401ks sitting there. Now, each of those are going to be required to take a distribution. So you got to get the calculation correct from all of those different
Yeah.
accounts. That's why a lot of people, when they come into the office, they're looking to consolidate some of the accounts so they don't have such a headache, right?
Yes.
That's a big thing we see is account consolidation.
Oh gosh, the amount of accounts sometimes people have, it's just
Yeah, and if you have a lot of accounts, I
that's
mean, don't get down on yourself. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of different accounts, and the idea as you move into retirement is if you can consolidate, it's going to be better and simpler to manage, especially
Yes.
when you hit those RMD ages. Because to
Yes.
your point, you got to take an RMD from every IRA. Now, the IRS in the tax law says that you can add them all up and take from one, but that can be challenging too to get the calculation right. So
I guess my question is, are there reminders that are sent out like, hey, this is your time, go ahead and take it? I mean, that's what I'm wondering.
yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. At the end of the day, the IRS will say it's your responsibility. Now, a lot of financial institutions will send a letter typically around that age.
Okay.
Our office, in practice,
Yeah.
every single year, we reach out to our clients and let them know about the RMDs. What we like to do, though, is set them up automatically. Right, so that we're every year it's just being paid out at the same time.
Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
I mean,
perfect sense.
typically most of our clients are wanting monthly income, right?
Of
So they're
course.
getting monthly distributions that are satisfying the required minimum distribution. Now, if certain folks don't need the monthly income, we just set it up automatically for them.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you both so much. Brian, I know that you and Neil have a very special offer that you would like to present to the viewers at home today. Let's talk about what that is and then open the phone lines.
Well, it's all about being on the right track, and most people want to know whether or not they're on the right track. Let me ask you, if you weren't on the right track, when would you want to know that? It's probably better that you know it now than later. And for a lot of people, again, they're in the accumulation phase when they need to start transitioning to the distribution phase. Our right track portfolio review, and we're going to give you a complimentary portfolio analysis at no cost. It's going to go over 5 key areas. Neil talked about it a little bit earlier. It's going to go over your income, your investments, your taxes, your health care, and your legacy plan. That's true retirement planning. And we conduct a review with our clients every year to make sure every one of those areas is being properly handled. So come in, get a second opinion, get a complimentary portfolio analysis from us. You've got to do your part, though. You've got to call us, 1-888-382 1298. Now, we've seen other people charge up to $1,000 or more for these features. We're going to do it complimentary at no cost.
Brian, thank you so much. Neil, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen, and that number is 888-382-1298. We know you have a lot of questions about how to plan your perfect retirement. Brian and Neil have the answers for you. Now, we have to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We do have more viewer questions coming next. It could be your very own. Stay tuned.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
And welcome back to Retirement U TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors, as well as Neil Major, senior investment advisor. I love our show today. I love the viewer questions because they're
always so good.
They're so interesting,
Really,
and they're
yes.
so diversified. They're coming from all different directions. So I don't want to miss a beat. Neil, I'm going to guide this next one to you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. This is a caller from Butler. He would like to know, Neil, I am self-employed with approximately $1.2 million in various IRAs, 401ks, and a couple annuities. I also have another $250,000 in liquid savings. I will probably never fully retire, but I fear taking a major hit on my portfolio. I am turning 68 years old, and my wife will turn 65 years old this year. What are some suggestions for allocation and diversification of my portfolio?
Wow.
Holy smokes.
That's a big, long question.
I know, I can repeat it if you want. I know, I was thinking that's a lot for you to keep
What's
up
his
with.
name, Dave?
1.2 is Jay. in
Jay,
Butler.
Jay,
Well, I mean, Jay has a
That
great
was, you took a
question.
long time to type that question. All right, go ahead.
That's two questions.
Yeah,
That's
was
all
it
the
two
time we
questions?
have for
All right.
today.
So, great question, Jay. I mean, you're 68 years old. You got a pretty nice savings there. You got, you want to continue to work, until as long as health allows, it sounds like.
Okay.
And you're concerned about the market. So it sounds to me like, really, if you just got a reasonable rate of return, you're going to be very, very successful. Now, it sounds like you have money kind of spread out everywhere. And you got some annuities you had mentioned. Personally, I like annuities, certain kinds of annuities. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of bad ones. There's a lot of good ones. Just like mutual funds, there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of bad ones. So really, it would definitely take some time to figure out exactly how you should be allocated.
Okay.
But it sounds like you're on the right track as far as the diversification that you have. You got some different IRAs. But what I would want to look at is, what can we do to improve your situation? What we utilize at the office is a lot of investments that rely on algorithms and technology. That might be a way to help protect some of your money, have some downside protection to it. But what I would advise you to do is call the office and schedule an appointment, because it looks like you got a big long list there.
Definitely.
Well,
That was a
I would
great
say,
question.
and I would say too, and this is just a rule of thumb. This is not advice by any means to Jay, but is something called the rule of 100. So a lot of times people don't understand how much money should I have protected versus how much I should have at risk. And there's a rule of thumb out there called the rule of 100. and you take 100 minus your age. So, let's just, Jay's 68, so we'll round him to 70. So basically you take 100 minus 70, which equals 30. So what that tells us is that 70% of his money should be protected from market volatility, and 30% of his money could be in an aggressive risk portfolio. Okay. And this is where we really come up with the bucketing approaches that we talk about all the time, right? Yeah. We have a now bucket, a soon bucket, and a later bucket. That's also translates to a cash bucket, an income bucket, and a growth bucket.
Sure, okay.
Is what that really stands for, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but Jay is more in a distribution phase of life than he is in an accumulation phase. Losses will hurt him more than gains will help him at this point in his life.
Wow.
Losses will hurt you, Jay, more than gains will help you at this point in your life, because again, the commodity that we are all running out of is time, that we can't create more of. So in order for us to be diversified correctly and taking risk, we've got to know that there's got to be time on the risk portfolio. And by setting your portfolio up based around the rule of 100, that can truly help you get the amount protected that you need and keep the amount at risk that you need.
Absolutely. Brian, excellent response. This is a great question. And Neil, sorry, I didn't want to, it was your response, and Brian chimed in. This is a great question, Brian. And then I love this because it's from South Hills. It says, Brian, what happens if something happens to secure money advisors? What would I do?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, Secure Money Advisors is the financial planning part of it, right? We work with big, strong, safe companies. We use TD Ameritrade, we use Vanguard, we use Fidelity, we use big companies, Nationwide, Prudential, you name it. So if something happened to Secure Money Advisors, your money is not with Secure Money Advisors, your money is with big financial institutions. Okay. And that's the fiduciary responsibility we have, right? We don't custodian your money, meaning we don't hold it at Secure Money Advisors, it's held at other big institutions. So you'd be just fine.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.
I think one of the, just to continue on that comment, I think one of the things that we hear a lot of is that people are entering into retirement and they want to make sure that their advisor that they're working with is going to be there for a long, long time. And I think, a lot of the advisors at the office are in their early 40s.
Yep.
We got a long way to go in our career, so we typically tell folks till death do us part, right? We plan on working.
We'll
with you,
usually be around.
right?
It's like if I, if I've got a bad heart, I probably want my heart surgeon to be a little bit younger. I don't know, but I may want him to be around. My financial advisor, I want him to be around. But yeah, I think there's a good point there. I mean, we've got some longevity left in the practice.
How many times have we heard people come in experiencing frustration with the fact that they work with this maybe larger firm, and they start gaining some momentum with their advisor. They really like the person that they're working with, and all of a sudden that person's gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
They're gone.
And that happens a lot. That happens a lot at these bigger institutions, because a lot of times these advisors get in, and at these big institutions, they're really not, progressing in their career the way that they want to, and they'll change the advisory firm that they're with, and all of a sudden now the client has been moved from this advisor to the next. And to Neil's point, you start to build some momentum with an advisor. You want to keep that momentum there. All of a sudden you're switched to somebody that maybe the chemistry's not right, maybe you're not getting, maybe that advisor's not able to articulate the planning process. We hear that a lot. A lot of times people say, I'm just so confused. By what they're saying. I'm not, I don't understand. I walk out of there more confused than I do when I walk in. And I will tell you, one of the compliments we get all the time is
keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Simplicity.
It doesn't have to be that hard, really. I mean, we just want to be able to explain it to you in layman's terms. We want you to understand it. We don't want to talk over you.
That's why we talk in buckets.
That's right.
Buckets are easy to understand.
Buckets are easy.
Talk about buckets.
Yeah, absolutely.
People make this way more difficult than it needs to be. They try to over sophisticate it, and it's really, really simple. I mean, we need income and we need growth, and there's just basic fundamentals to follow. You don't need to get fancy with it.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, Brian, I know that you and Neil have a special offer that you want to deliver to the folks at home today. Let's talk about what that is and then open up the phone lines. Yeah,
folks, most people want to know if they're on the right track, and that may be you. I think the biggest things that we hear often at our practice is, I'm not sure when to take Social Security. I'm going to need to start withdrawing money from my 401k. I'm not sure how to do that. I'm going to need that money for the rest of my life, and I don't want to run out of that money. And, I'll also hear that people are at a position in their life where they can't afford another big market loss because they just don't have the time to recover. We're going to do a complimentary portfolio analysis for you at no cost, but you've got to do your part and call 1-888-382-1298, and we'll get you scheduled to come into the office. We're located right up in Zelienople. and it's a great little town. You come up, you can have some lunch afterwards or go out for dinner, and we'll spend about 45 minutes together. We'll give you a lot of clarity and a lot of certainty and peace of mind about what you're doing and help you determine whether or not you're on the right track. And if you're not, we'll share with you the things that you could do to potentially get yourself on the right track. Don't think that you have a retirement plan just because you have money invested in a 401k. That's an investment strategy. Retirement planning is 5 key areas. It's income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy planning. But again, you've got to do your part. You've got to take the time to schedule. Call 1-888-382-1298.
Brian, thank you so much. Neil, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 888-382-1298. We do have to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to have a couple more viewer questions. And again, it could be yours. Stay tuned.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
And welcome back to Retirement U TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors, as well as Neil Major, senior investment advisor. Great show that we're having today. We have a very short segment left, so I just want to go right into the viewer questions. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
Neil, you are up next. This is a great question. Neil, I'm 55 years old. I've been with the same company for about 15 years. I've always had a 401k, and I'm taking advantage of the match, but now the company is offering a Roth 401k. Should I be contributing to it as well, and are there any disadvantages?
That's a great question. I mean, a lot of people ask that as they get older and are getting closer to retirement. The Roth IRA is all the rage, right? I mean, so I would recommend, really take a look at how much you have pre-tax. Do you need the tax break right now? But a lot of people that I'm dealing with are saying, I'd rather deal with the known tax rate right now than what the future holds and the potential increase in taxes. So getting money to a Roth and allowing it time to accumulate, I think, can always be a good decision. Now, whether or not it's the best decision for you, we'd have to know a little bit more detail. But I know a lot of my clients have been moving in that direction.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, especially with the concern of tax rates going up. I mean, if you can get the IRS out of the picture,
Yeah.
it's always a better thing to do.
Sure.
I mean, you think about these traditional IRA plans and traditional 401k plans. I'm not a big fan of them because if you think about it, we were promised this tax deduction so that when our money grew and we needed it later on in life and we started withdrawing our money, we'd be in a lower tax bracket. How many clients you have in a lower tax
Not many.
bracket?
Not
Right.
many.
Not many. So it was just a bill of goods that we were all sold. So the sooner you can get the IRS out of the picture, and even if you only had maybe 3 to 5 years left of work and you redirected the money from the traditional contributions to traditional 401k to the Roth 401k, at least you got a pot of money that's starting to be completely tax-free.
Sure.
And again, this goes back to the tax rates because when we're doing cash flow planning for people, if we've got to generate $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, let's just use the example of 1,000, and they're in a 20% tax bracket, we know they're only going to net $800 afterwards.
Right.
But all of a sudden, tax law changes, tax rates go up, and now that same $1,000, because they go to a 30% tax rate, now only nets them $7,000. So we have a reduction in income just from taxes alone. Add inflation into that now, and it erodes wealth very, very quickly. So if we can go from taxable money to tax-free money, we're going to be much better off.
Absolutely.
What I've started to experience too, a lot of my younger clients are moving in the direction of the Roth. And,
Okay.
you know, it can be a really great route to take for someone that, you know, maybe is in their first job.
Yes.
Going to the Roth portion. Because if you're in your first job, you're 21, 22 years old, and you got 40 plus year to get tax-free growth. I mean, what an advantage for those types of people who really don't need the tax break, most likely at that point in their life.
I'm smiling because I told my daughter to do exactly that. She started her job, and she's been there about a year and a half. They offered her the Roth 401k. I said 100% sign up for it.
There you go.
And
Great
she's
advice.
loving it. Yeah,
Yep.
well, I've
Great
learned a lot
advice.
from the two of you. That's what it comes down to. So we have
Yeah.
one more question I think we're
Yeah.
going to have time for, Brian. This is a great one, and again, it's going to kind of tie into the Roth. This is a question from South Hills. I have most of my money in a traditional IRA. I'm 66 years old, still working. Is it better to do a conversion to the Roth IRA and invest? We have about a minute and 50 seconds left.
I mean, it can be. Those are tough decisions. I mean,
Sure.
66, all money in a traditional,
Yes.
still wants to work. Should you start to convert? Depends on how much money you're making at work. I mean,
Okay.
and it really depends on how much I can convert without getting you to another tax bracket. And,
Right.
and you know, it also depends on whether or not people have money to actually pay the taxes, because a lot of times what we don't want to do is we don't want to do a conversion to where we're actually paying taxes on the tax dollars, meaning we're actually, you know, using the IRA to pay the taxes. A lot of times what we recommend is that you got to have money on the outside to be able to pay those taxes. Not only that, but you need time to recoup from paying the taxes. So 66, that could be a little bit tight depending on the situation. So I would tell you, as we've told everybody on this show,
Need more-
schedule a time to come
Need
in.
more info, yeah.
Definitely.
Schedule a time to come in. You have nothing to lose. As a matter of fact, for the next 10 callers, we're going to give you a complimentary portfolio analysis, but you've got to do your part. You got to call 1-888-382-1298. We're going to go over the 5 key areas that we talked about: income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy planning. But do your part. Pick up the phone, call 1-888-382-1298, and schedule your complimentary portfolio analysis today.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for another amazing show. To the viewers at home, thank you so much for spending time with us. That number to call is 888-382-1298. We know you have questions about how to retire with confidence. Brian and Neil have the answers for you. Again, keep the viewer questions coming. We love to hear from you. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you back here 1 week from today, same time, same location.